Hello, everyone, and welcome to École Polytechnique's webinar. Thank you for your interest and thank you for joining us. I am Pamela, and I'm in charge of the promotion of the different Masters of Science and Technology programs. And joining me today is Lily Toucteau and Thomas Clausen, so I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily. I'm the admissions manager and recruitment on École Polytechnique site. Hi, Thomas, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I had hit the wrong button. I'm Thomas Clausen. I'm the Danish guy. I'll be taking care of you on the academic side and answer your questions on the content of the program.
Thank you. So as you know, today we're going to present to you École Polytechnique as well as the MSc&T in IoT and its admission process. So just for information, we will take all of your questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask anything related to the presentation. So what is École Polytechnique? For those who don't know, a few key facts about the school, the French leading institute in science and technology, based in Palaiseau, which is about 20 kilometers away from Paris, and was created in 1794. We are one of the best world university for students' employability, and very proud of that. And we have about 3,600 students coming from all over the world. So about 40% of international students, but also 40% of international teachers. And we offer different undergraduate and graduate programs from the bachelor degree to the PhD. The student life at École Polytechnique is very important. Students can take part in almost 250 associations in cultural, artistic, social, scientific, and sporting activities. And the campus itself offers many services, such as banks, a hairdresser, a post office, therapist, but also many facilities such as a library, research labs, innovation center, and lots of events are organized throughout the year. Professional events, student events, but also cultural events to allow students to make memories, enjoy their time, but also network and be prepared for their future career. So I will let Thomas introduce the MSc&T programs and the MSc&T in IoT.
Very good. Thank you, Pamela. So to give you a little bit of background, so we created these, so École Polytechnique is a very old school. We date back more than 200 years, and we've been very, very good at training French people at all the properties that Pamela said: high employability, high level of science and technology. Historically, we've been a little bit less good at hiring and training non-French graduates. At least not French-speaking graduates, because, well, we are in France and we speak French in France. I had to learn French when I came here, and believe me, that was hard. So one of the reasons for creating the Master of Science and Technology programs was that we wanted to be able to offer the same very, very high level of instruction, the same very high level of skills, but we wanted to do that in a way that was both taught in English, so that people like me can actually both participate in the program as a teacher or as a student, but also that is compatible with and understandable by the international system. Remember, in the rest of the world, you have a bachelor's degree followed by a master's degree, and then you do a PhD. And of course, France doesn't do like that traditionally. So this program was really created to take the best of both the international system, English, 2 years, master's level, and then combine that with the as written on the slide there, this nice mixture between world-class faculty plus association with world-class international companies as well, to provide these Master of Science and Technology programs as elite programs. So why are they different? Well, okay, they're elite. There are many elite programs. You will probably say that you go to many international schools, they will also claim to do elite programs. Yes, they probably do. We are, however, by way of our very name, a multidisciplinary school, polytechnique, many techniques. So these Master of Science and Technology programs are very much adhering to what's our DNA, which is a multidisciplinary approach to everything. So today, if you want to build a car, you need people who know how to do mechanical engineering and chemical engineering and know something about combustion and know something about material sciences and know something about embedded software and electronics, but you also need somebody who knows something about cybersecurity and AI, because you've probably seen that cars today are computers on wheels. So in any sort of thing you need to develop today, you need to have this multidisciplinary approach. That's been in our DNA at Polytechnique for 220 some years, 230 years. And that's what we're bringing into this program by providing these Master of Science and Technology programs with, of course, a technology focus, but not just a technology focus on a single technology, but on a interdisciplinary set of technologies. And even beyond that, as we have management, we have innovation, we have entrepreneurship, we have humanities, we have language classes and so forth and so on, to try to create not just specialist geeks, but actually well-rounded individuals who also know how to, I often say, know how to talk intelligently to both a computer and to a human being. So that's sort of what we are trying to build with this program here. The second thing that is quite important is that we are trying to sit very much on the intersection of both academia and industry, and we try to sit very much intersection of a great set of, within each program, a great set of scientific or academic domains. So if you look specifically at the IoT program, well, there's IoT, there's innovation, there's management. So obviously we have management and innovation in the title already. You will find courses of that as part of the curriculum, as part of the program as well. But also, when you say IoT, you need to understand what is it. You probably have an idea, you probably can't formalize it, but you probably understand that it's something that intersects a lot of different technical domains. So there'll be electronics, there'll be communications, because your IoT device I is for internet, it's for something that communicates. There'll be communications, and we'll be creating you world-class electronics engineers and world-class telecommunications engineers. You need to know how to build software that is capable of running on small embedded devices that communicate, and that has to be safe and secure, but you also need to be able to get the data that these devices create up to and have it analyzed in the cloud somewhere. So there's a whole spectrum of technological things that goes from actually manufacturing the physical devices, making those devices intelligent, able to do something, communicate the information that they generate up to the cloud and analyze data in the cloud, but also, of course, command those devices from the cloud. That's the technical part of this. But then there's also the whole thing of what happens when you start generating data about people's environment. There might be regulations, there might be laws, there might be liabilities. If you build an autonomous car and somebody has an accident, are you then, as a developer, as a manufacturer, are you then responsible for the accident? Is it the driver? What if there is no driver? So we ask those questions again on what are the regulatory constraints, what are the legal constraints, what are the things to be aware of, not to make you lawyers, because we can't do that in so short time, but to make sure you know enough as to when and how to ask intelligent questions to a lawyer. And that again goes to actually the last 2 points there, right? You build a product, you build a device, you had a great idea, you created a startup, you have a fantastic technological thing. You also need to know how to make sure it's acceptable both legally into society, socially, that it's something people want to buy and want to use, and then that you have a business model that allows you to develop and provide that object and the associated services through the lifetime of the product. And we are trying to, in this program, base it around those 6 thematics areas. So other than the 3 technical areas, electronic communications and software, essentially from connected objects and up until the cloud, with AI and telecommunications in between, we are also basing it on the fact of trying to understand the greater context in which these things that we are building will be inserting themselves. And that means understanding, what does the law say, what are regulations we need to respect, how do we do that, how do we build an economic model that allows our product to survive, how do we link that economic model to how our object is acceptable or is accepted into society. And to take an example of this, in my grandfather's generation, if I said, well, listen, granddad, you should get yourself a device that will allow some big company to track your every being, every move 24 hours a day, he would probably have told me to go away and to shut up and behave nicely, because he had lived through some of the European wars and definitely didn't want to be tracked. Yet for some reason today, we're all okay with carrying a tracking device around in our pockets, right? That's not because we are stupid, or that's because there's been a good reason why this object now becomes something that we want to carry with us, and we accept maybe that inconvenience, or we have guarantees against that, against those inconveniences. So we are having this whole program with the whole chain of developments from the very basic electronic software, as I said before, and up until how do things fit in and how do we move those into objects in the society. And this is spread out over 2 years. And those 2 years I want to talk a little bit about because they are structured in a specific way. So the first year, you need to acquire the basics. So I tell you what to do. There'll be a list of courses, and I have chosen good courses for you with good teachers, so you won't be bored. But there'll be courses in the basics for both of the semesters. There'll be courses in the fall, there'll be courses in the springs that will provide you a solid introduction to all those different domains. And then you will have one trimester, sorry, in France we divide the academic year into 3, so we'll have one trimester, the last third of the year, which will be dedicated to working on what I call a graduate project. And I write graduate project for several reasons. It can be something that you can do in your own. If you have an idea that you want to pursue it toward perhaps creating a startup or to developing some new devices for yourself or some open source project or so forth and so on. It can be you want to get involved in a research project with some of the professors you met during your stay at École Polytechnique, and you will have one trimester where you can work closely on that. But it can also mean that you will go out to work in a company as sort of an internship for those 3 months. Of course, an internship that has to have as overarching thematics digital innovation. So you will essentially be working on a project either by yourself or within a company or within a research team for a trimester. You will be working with somebody who will be mentoring you, and you'll be working with a professor who will be sure to make sure it also allows you to learn a bunch of academic skills. How do you conduct, for example, a proper state-of-the-art search? So after that first year, you will have been working hard, you will have learned a lot, you will have a strong basis technically, scientifically, academically, and you will also have tried to put it into practice a little bit. And then you'll come back and want to specialize. And so here's what we usually do. Very often people show up in the program and say, oh, I really want to go into this particular sector of activity. That's my dream. And that's perfect if they do that. And then they go through the first year and they realize, actually, I kind of really want to go in this direction instead. So between the first and the second year, we see a lot of students who want to change their orientation somehow to adapt what they're doing because they've learned something, they acquired some new skills. So for that reason, the second year is very much, I want to say, a la carte. There are some constraints. You still need to have multidisciplinary studies. You still need to have both, maybe some science, maybe some economics, maybe some management, maybe some law. But you get to choose more freely what specific courses you want to take. If you, for example, say, I really have become interested in the electronics aspects of that, you will be able to do extensive studies into electronics and specialize in that, of course, within the greater framework of IoT. But maybe you've realized that actually business consulting for innovation processes is more your thing, in which case you will be rather taking more classes that prepare you in that direction. Or maybe you figure out that you want to do a PhD in AI somehow because you realize that all the data that come out of connected objects, well, they have an application in that field, in which case, of course, you will be able to target your class choices so as to satisfy your interests. And that's where I look back to a little bit of what Pamela said before. I look back to the fact that we are a small school. We are not 100,000 students or 10,000 students. We have a very attractive faculty to student ratio. So basically, whenever you come back from your first year of studies, from your first internship or your first project, you will spend time with me and or one of my colleagues, and we'll be discussing, so what do you want to do? What is the right course selection with you? And once we have worked that out, then you'll make your choices and you will start following those classes. So here you can see the content and details of the first year. As you can see, the first year is very, very introductory, right? There are some fundamental courses in programming for those who haven't done that: algorithms, data structures, IoT, business models, circuit design, etc., etc. And what I want to say here is that it looks intense, and it actually is intense, but we are also hiring you because you are able to sustain that degree of intensity. What I want to specifically point out is, and I know Lily will come back to that a little bit, but what we specifically want to point out is that these classes, again, are with a very attractive student to faculty ratio. So even though you might say, oh, I have never done any electronics because my undergraduate was in biology, yeah, but you will still get to have, for example, electronic classes. That's very important to understand. But you will also be accompanied on the way by having professors and teaching assistants who will be with you in a more individualized way. This is part of why we are wanting, and we're proud of being a small, a human-sized school, as I often say. So that's sort of the first year that looks like this. Now, for the next year, for the second year, we have more than 300 different courses available in the catalog, all of which are in English, most of which are in English, sorry, all of which are accessible to you, all of which are at a level that allows you to fit in, find some that are able to satisfy your interests. What I will propose, what I do propose, is a program that looks like this, right? I will say, okay, if you don't choose anything, here's what you're going to get, because that's something that I think is interesting, think is fun. So you'll get, for example, something about cyber-physical systems, something about databases, marketing, digital economics, network security, something about machine learning, something about sensors and sensing devices. How do you take environmental things and transform into the digital space, etc., etc. But almost no students choose exactly this program because, as I said, they come back from the first year and they have a very specific idea where they want to go. And depending on what they've done in the undergraduates as well, they come say, hey, I really want to go in this direction. What can we find of classes that will specifically allow me to go deeper here or learn more there? So you should really think about this as a first year, providing a solid basis, a solid foundation, and then you working on your project with the professor for what you'll be doing during your second year. And that's kind of what I wanted to say about the program and the 2 years of the program. Of course, as Pamela said, if you have any questions to this, you are able to ask them in the chat. We have the luxury of having a few students who have graduated over the years so far already, and we're in contact with most of them still. And they essentially, most of them have jobs even before they graduate. I just saw yesterday that one of the students who's currently in M2 just informed me that, hey, I have actually got a job offer. What do you think of that? Which is a fantastic thing to do. Some of them do a PhD, an industrial PhD. So one of the things that it's important, the program here sits on the intersection between industry and academia. So you're just as well equipped for doing a PhD as you would be for going out and working as an engineer. That depends on your interest. We have some who are either product experts or product developers, so lead IoT product developments in big and small companies. We have some who have pivoted after I've been out in a few years and is now working for one of the big GAFAMs in charge of part of the cloud platform. And we have, as you can see there, all sorts of profiles. We also have students who graduated and who are continuing in the consulting space and who are trying to accompany businesses who are in the digitalization process of figuring out how to use technology to further their business models. So we have a large amount of openings once you graduate from the program. And as Pamela said, your contact with your potential future employers almost start at day one of the program. We are very close to industry, and that is part of what helps us make a program that is relevant, and part of what makes us make sure that our graduates are actually recruitable once they graduate. So Pamela?
Again, if you have any question related to the program, feel free to use the Q&A button. We will answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. And now we will let Adi, which is a current student in the second year of the IoT program, share his experience at École Polytechnique, but also more specifically in this program.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Adi. I'm currently a Master 2 student in the Internet of Things program. Before joining the program, I did a bachelor in computer and communication engineering And I joined the program here at Polytechnique and IoT because it didn't only deal with technology, but also dealt with business and management, which is a side I want to explore a little bit more. So I had the opportunity as the program shown here, first year to take more technical and business management courses. And the second year, I decided to focus a little bit more on the technical side. So that's what I mostly worked around, and I'll be happy to answer any question you have from a student standpoint on the courses, but maybe also on the student life.
To share maybe about your experience as a student in this program, or maybe some tips for potential future students, either for the admission process or just the student life at École Polytechnique.
So concerning the admission process, maybe if you are motivated, if you like IoT, make sure to show your motivation, show why you're applying to this program, what are your future career plans. In my case, I was thinking at the time I was applying, I was still thinking about either pursuing a career in the technical side or more of a career in consulting. So I made sure to talk about that. And of course, I talk about my previous experience in the field, and not only that, my motivation. So it's something very, very important. If you are motivated, make sure to show that. It's an industry-oriented program. So while there is a focus on grade, your motivation is going to be the deciding factor.
Thank you. And could you please tell us also, why did you choose École Polytechnique, and more specifically, the IoT MSc&T?
So I've chosen this program, like I've previously mentioned before, because it doesn't only focus on the technology aspect. I saw most programs related to IoT mostly focus on that, but also focuses on the business management perspective. So I had previously had the chance to look at some IoT project or talk with some businesses which already work in IoT, and a lot of them had issues assessing what the IoT was, how to implement it properly. So I chose this formation because it gave a well-rounded perspective, not only on the technical side, understanding what is the IoT, what are the constraints of the IoT in today's world, might be in security, might be in the power and energy requirements, but also on the business side, because if you're going to develop a product, you need to care about the company, its business model, and what value it wants to deliver to customers.
Thank you. Once again, if you have questions to ask to ID, I don't know if you will be able to stay with us until the end of the webinar, but if you have any questions to ask him, feel free to. For your information, we have different testimonies on our website, so feel free to scan the QR code that is on your screen to be redirected on our website and be able to read the different testimonies for people that graduated from that program or that are still current students in the program. It might help you. And also feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn. They're usually very happy to exchange with potential future students and answer to different questions. So now I will let Lily talk about the application process.
So yes, let's go to the next slide. And in order to start, yeah, okay, perfect. So in order to apply to the first year of the master, you'll need to have already obtained a bachelor's degree in one of the fields that are shown in the screen: technology, engineering, mathematics, or science, or have a solid background in one of those fields, and be proficient in English. Basically, those are the two main requirements to start. And students from other educational backgrounds can apply, but you still have to obtain a solid skills in science or mathematics, and maybe in parallel studies that you may have done. Applications to the second years are very rare, actually. Thomas, maybe you can confirm that, but actually it's not possible or barely possible for next year directly to the second year? Yeah.
Structurally, formally, we are accepting applications both in the first and the second year, but applications directly into the second year are I don't recommend it. And the reason I don't recommend it is that it assumes a very specific set of prerequisites from the M1, from the first year, that I have not yet found existing elsewhere. So I don't think we have had any successful applicants directly into the second year. We're not forbidding it. If by magic a candidate with the right set of prerequisites shows up, we'll be definitely considering the application, but it's not something that we have we've seen so far. There's another thing I really want to stress though. A master's program in every country is a 2-year program, and 2 years is just about the time you need to, and that's my cat. 2 years is just about the time that you need to also create good networking with your cohorts from your class. And if you show up in the middle of a 2-year program, those links are going to be weaker, less useful, less rich. So I do really recommend applying for full 2-year programs. I don't know if that was a question or it was just something that Lily thought was important to discuss.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes, so and of course be proficient in English and have an international mindset. Most of our students are international. Actually, 65% of MSc&T students are international. So that's also a quality that we're looking for. So regarding the application, indeed, so you will have to submit it online. You have an online application form to fulfill. It's about the transcripts, documents that are with transcripts. You have to upload the scanned copies of your previous post-secondary education, including exchange programs. If you're currently finishing your bachelor program, it's not a problem. Actually, you can upload the enrollment certificate in order to apply, and in order, if you are admitted, you'll be able to send us the degree by the summer. Then you need also to provide us 2 references. One of them has to be a professor. It may be someone from your current university, or a previous one. If you have already a master, bachelor or master degree, you can ask one of your teachers to send you a reference. And the other one can be a supervisor. If you are done an internship or you're currently working, it's also possible. So you'll find a section in the application form in which you can fill out the contact details, and then they'll receive an email in order to upload their recommendation letter. There is no template for the recommendation letter. Actually, it's free. Your reference can just upload the one they have, but important is to do it before the deadline. Personal statements. So we also request a personal statement in order to know more about your motivations. Please respect the format. The format is in the application form, and so you will find several questions. A few examples of them is like to explain your motivation and interest in the subject for which you are applying. What are your career goals and plans? Describe your achievements, and so please be honest in what you are writing in this personal statement, because we will certainly ask you sometimes. Well, sometimes we ask something related to the personal statement or CV. Actually, we see the application as a whole, so try to be precise and honest on that sense. And also because
can I just say something, Lily, here?
Sure.
A general piece of advice here is you have to think about this as 2 different things. The personal statement on one hand has to tell something about you that I can't see out of your CV or out of your grade transcript. So the exercise really is to try to extract and show your ability to be passionate about some sort of subject and have some experience to share that will catch the attention of the person reviewing your application. So I'm putting this out here because we see a lot of applicants where essentially your personal statement is a lyrical version of your CV that is harder to read. So try to make sure very much to respect the guidance that Lily has given you here. We're really wanting to know something more than we could find on your CV.
Yeah, exactly. And just be conscious as well that Thomas is going to read your personal statement and some other professors and the jury in general. So take that into account. And then you'll need to upload your CV, of course, and it has to be 2 pages maximum. So try to be concrete, but also try to remark your main achievements, and if there's something related to the field that you're going to study, of course, it may be something valuable. Please describe your academic background, your extracurricular activities, personal projects. Please tell us what you're doing right now, if you're working, if you're currently studying, and maybe if you have already obtained an internship for the summer, also you can include it. Thomas, if you have any tip for the CV, what catch your attention?
Basically, what is important is for the CV to be fitting on one page, so you can get a glance of what program are you in, what skills do you have, what if any project have you managed to work on that you can show off. So if you can make those things appear in front of your CV, then that's fantastic. And that has to be appear so it's easy to see it, right? But basically put things ahead that you're proud of. One of the things I often say is, I can teach you anything except passion. If you're not able to be passionate about something, I can't teach you that. But if you can be passionate about something, then my challenge is just to redirect your passion onto whatever subject you have to be working on, whatever class you have to be studying. So the really important thing is that you show that you're able to do that, and that you're able to put in front some things that you are passionate about. So if it turns out that what you've been doing has been, I don't know, developing a new way for your ping pong team to organize their weekly practice sessions, and you wrote a piece of software for that, it might not be very academic, but put it up because it shows that you have both creativity, you are able to be passionate about something, you're able to bring some projects to completion, and that fully belongs in your CV. However, don't make me a 50-page CV, because at page 49 I'll fall asleep. So that's basically what I sort of want to say. Show us you have passion. Right? Show us you have passion.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good advice. And then English, of course. This is an English master, a master taught in English, and you have to be proficient. You can prove it by taking some tests, like for example, you can take the IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge test. So you need a C1 level. The test must have been taken less than 2 years ago, and if you don't currently have the official results, it's okay. Actually, you can at least upload the proof of enrollment to the test, and then in case of being admitted, of course, you'll receive a conditional admission letter until you provide us the official results. Okay, so don't let yourself to be blocked for this requirement. It's mandatory, but in order to submit your application, I mean, at least with the certificate of enrollment, it's fine. We don't require GMAT and GRE or DashMash. Actually, if you have taken those tests, it's fine. You can upload it in order to support your application, but it's not mandatory. Okay, and finally, a copy of your passport and photo taken recently, no more than 6 months ago, and you'll need to pay a 90 euros fee. So if your file is complete and within the deadlines, then your application will be evaluated by the admission committee. It will take around 2 weeks after submitting the application, and then you may be invited to an interview, which is the second phase. And this interview is completely in English and with the jury composed by the academic director and admission team. It will last from 20 to 30 minutes, and it's online. So as I would say, like, just prepare, try to learn the most you can from the program, or maybe to talk with other students who are currently enrolled, and or alumni if you can, in order to learn more about what is it to be a student of this IoT program, and be ready for questions about your scientific culture, motivation, your passion about the field, and or anything that it's related to your academic or professional background. So that would be my advice. If you have any advice on your side, Thomas, about the interview.
Well, yeah. There's a do and there's a don't, right? The do is to be prepared, as Lily said. The don't is to script something and then read up a written statement, because that we will easily see that that's what you're doing. And when we ask questions that will not fit your script, you will be literally thrown off. And it so far has been rare to see an applicant able to recover from that. So the advice I can give for the interview is to be prepared, know yourself, know why you are applying, know what motivation you have within the field. If you have done some work during your undergraduate or somewhere else, some undergraduate students have written a paper they published at a conference, for example, with an undergraduate advisor, or have been working on some projects. Be ready to talk about that, especially if you put it in your CV that you have co-written a paper or you co-wrote some software. We want to hear about that. We want to talk about that. So in the interview is mostly there to bring you to talk about things that you're supposed to already feel comfortable with, because it's stuff that you will be working on. We're not going to be asking you questions about, right, so I know you did this, but let's now talk about this completely different subject to see if we can find something you don't. It's not an exam. It is saying you've been presenting your CV and your CV was interesting, you want to know more, so be ready to talk about that in some more details. That can be if you've been working on some project, or it can be if you've been contributing to some scientific paper with an undergraduate advisor, or as we talked about before, something that has nothing to do with your schoolwork at all. And be for sure able to so this is going to sound a little bit weird. We are actually not here to attract a great number of students. We're happy being a small school, a small program, right? So we are in part to figure out whether or not you're applying to this program is that which is best for you. We are not here. I'm not here. I don't get a bonus for getting more students to join the program. So I want to be sure that the students who join the program are the right students. And so part of the interview is also for me to figure out, is this really the right program for you? Because if it isn't, I'd much rather help you go somewhere else, because if you get to this program and it sucks for you, then I'm going to have a hard time with you for 2 years during this program, and I don't want that. So it's also part of, why is this the right program for you? And we are there, I mean, at least I'm there, not to convince you to join, but to figure out also, is it really the right thing to do for you? So I think that's important to also call out. We are really, I would be horrified if I found myself with 400 students in a year, because I wouldn't be able to know all of them. So that's it's really not a matter of being scared for the interview process, but rather taking it as an opportunity to exchange, to talk about stuff you've been working on, you've been passionate about, to ask questions, and to know that everybody are there to try to help you figure out what's the right direction for you to take your future studies.
Good. Thank you, Thomas. And so the final decisions are based on the interview, basically, and well, the whole application that you have submitted, and it would take maybe around 2 weeks as well in order to receive the final decision, or a little bit less. So for this, I will recommend you to check the deadlines that you will find in our website. You will know the timeline of each one of the stages of the application. So let's talk about tuition fees. So this is a program that will cost like 14,100 euros per year. And this is a fee that won't change from one year to the other. This is the tuition fee that you will pay for both years, each one of the years, of course. There is financial aid available. We have a limited number of scholarships, and we choose students after the interviews. Right after the interviews, we debrief with the committee, and we decide if any student may be awarded with a scholarship coming from the École Polytechnique Foundation or any industrial partners. If it's the case, we decide on some criteria such as academic excellence or need-based. Okay, very important to know for you is that only applications for the first and second round of admissions are included in our in our process of selecting scholarship awardees. So now we are in the last 2 weeks of applications. So if you are in the way of applying, please finish your application on time. And of course, take into account as well that studying abroad is not only about tuition fees, but also living expenses. Our scholarships cover only tuition fees, so think about living expenses and how you're going to fund your studies on that side in France as well. So, of course, being a student in France also gives you the opportunity to receive some funding from the government in order to help you to pay the rent, not entirely, but a portion of it, and you can have access to some discounts as being a student. Finally, just to finish the topic about financial aid, our scholarships cover from 50% to maybe 70% of the tuition fees. It will depend, every year is a little bit different. Yeah, we can go to the next slide now. And yes, and so we have here the admission calendar. We are currently in the second round, so it will end February 12th. We are extending it exceptionally until February 19th, so you still have time to collect all the documents that you may need. And of course, if you have any problem about the deadline or something, we can see case by case. It will depend, but try to write us directly to the email that you will see in the next slide. And yes, GD admissions at polytechnique.fr. We have a third round, which will start right after the second round is closed. I advise you to apply early. If in any way you can't apply for the second round, you can apply, of course, in this third one, but just be conscious that scholarships opportunities will be a little bit less available, won't be available. Maybe there's any possibility we will communicate it, but it's very rare. And for the third round as well, I mean, most of the students would have been chosen, so it's a little bit more competitive sometimes. Would you have any word to say, Thomas, before we go to the Q&A section?
No, I've been interrupting you enough, Lily. I should not say any more now.
Okay. Thank you. And so, yeah, we are going to start with the Q&A. So, Pamela, I let you the floor.
Yes, thank you. So we have some questions for you. Someone wants to know if coming from one of the engineering cycles of the Institut Polytechnique de Paris is a way to get, is an admission to the second year possible if you come from Cycle Ingénieur of IP Paris? You kind of already answered, but
the legal answer to that is yes. We are not legally allowed to, and we won't say we do not want to take somebody directly into the last year, because the process exists. However, as I said, the process exists and still allows us to verify the extent to which the prerequisites are satisfied. That's really the question. Does that particular cycle that the student has followed satisfies prerequisites? That's the question, and I can't say yes or no without seeing something in greater detail.
The same person wants to know if this program would be a good preparation for a thesis, both academic or industrial.
Yes. We have, since the first year of this program, we have had, I want to say something about 10% of the students who have pursued either directly or after a gap year a PhD, some industrial PhDs, some academic PhDs, and have done fantastically. So that's definitely possible.
Do I have a chance of getting accepted to the IoT program without a strong scientific background? The person has a bachelor degree in business administration.
So the formal rules is a STEM degree, an undergraduate degree in STEM of science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. But that can be in all science, technology, engineering, and mathematical fields. So it can be biology, chemistry, electronics, etc., as well as computer science and mathematics and AI. A BA in business administration, I have never seen that successfully happen. One of the things here that I'm worried about is not the content as much of a BA or the kind of profile that is, but rather the fact that there will be during the first year a set of classes which will assume some mathematics and physics and so on in the bagage that you usually get through a STEM undergraduate, which I am not sure that you will have in a BA in business administration. The reason I say I'm not sure is that there are cases where you might have a minor in physics or a minor in mathematics or a minor in something that goes with a bachelor's degree in business administration. So there might be cases where it's possible. It's not common. But so you really have to, whoever is asking this question, you have to really look at what your prerequisites, what the prerequisites would be to follow. For example, would you feel confident following a class in, the mathematic underpinnings of machine learning? Do you feel you have enough math already for that? Do you feel that you have enough computer programming background to be able to properly follow more advanced classes in algorithms and so on and so forth? If you feel that, and if you have had classes like that, it might be that you took some optional elective classes. It maybe you have a double major somewhere. It might be you have a minor somewhere in computer science. That is definitely something you want to put front and center in your application. You're much better off being upfront if you apply and saying, this is my precise background. This is why I believe that with this background, I would be able to follow the courses, even though I don't tick the formal undergraduate in a STEM field. But if you feel that you have had it, you put it up front, so that we can have a talk about that. We can discuss that in greater detail. So if the question is, do I have a chance? Yes, there's a chance, but not if all you have is a BA in business administration with only classical business administration field. And it's not because I don't want you in the program. It's because if you join the program, you're going to suffer, and I don't want you to suffer. So it's not to kick you out, it's to protect you.
Thank you. Someone wants to know if the chances of getting in the program are lower at each round of admission.
Formally, I don't know. I tend to look at the candidate's quality, and if the candidate quality is satisfactory, then it becomes a matter of musical chairs, as in, are there more people wanting to sit down than we have chairs? So if we have in the first round, we have 100 fantastic candidates, then possibly you might be having less of a chance later. That being said, we are being very selective. So we are being very selective across all the 3 rounds. So I don't think I can't say that it is significantly easier to be admitted in the first round than during the last round, for example. I wouldn't say it like that. We'd rather try to apply a homogeneous selection criteria across the 3 rounds, and we want to select only the very best.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't had math modules in my bachelor's in economic history and geography, but have had econometric-based research models. Is that good?
I would have to see a transcript to answer that. So in part because I'm not an economics guy, so I don't know that. I don't know what would be actually contained in that. So I would want to see a transcript. I would want to talk to one of our economists to understand it. There are most certainly courses in economics that will have a very, very high mathematical content, and which will quite conceivably be able to prepare for some of the challenges of this program. But there would just as easily be economics degrees that have a less stringent math content. So I really we need to see a more detailed transcript, but that could be a possibility indeed.
Okay, well, thank you for these answers. Is there anything that you would like to add, maybe for people that are listening to us right now?
I would just like to add that I think the one of the values that I see of the program is that it is one of the few places, I believe, where you will be able to establish some close relationships, both with students who are having exactly the same profile as you, but also with students who have very, very different profiles, very different career aspirations. And that means that often each cohort that we see is having a very interesting dynamics and having a very different profile from the next. And I think that's humanly a very interesting experience. And I think it's fantastic to have a bunch of students who graduate, and they came in with so for 1 year we had a guy who had an undergraduate in aerospace engineering, and another guy who had an undergraduate in biotechnics, and another one who was a computer scientist and a mathematician, right? And you have sort of 4 different profiles, all scientific profiles. They enter and they sort of go through this thing together, and the dynamics that happen when they are working on projects together with these very, very diverse profiles allow the projects to potentially go much farther. And it's fantastic to see that. I think this is a unique program in as much as we are having a very broad opening. And I think it's also unique because the graduates that we produce then have gone through this program, but also up in a very diverse set of fields, a diverse set of topics that they work on. Some in biotechnics, some in engineering of cloud systems, some in computer networking, some in research, some in product development, and others, again, like Heidi mentioned, go into management and consultancy. And I think this makes for an extremely interesting program to follow. At least I enjoy it a great deal. And if you are interested in that, I think that would be an interesting program for you, if you're interested in that, without, of course, compromising excellence scientifically in each of these fields.
Thank you. We have one last question. Is there some other way to gain and show math proficiency other than just in university models?
Yes, of course there is. There are obviously you can take university credits, obviously. You could also follow various kinds of other continuing education modules as needed. There might be available where you are, specific programs that will prepare you for that. You might also be able to follow and pass, for example, MOOCs, Coursera modules, etc., privileging those which has some degree of certification or certificate of achievement at the end, and so on and so forth. We are not just looking at a transcript from a school, but if you present a transcript and you present a certificate from some other institution, and you present that you follow these 4 modules in Coursera and you have a certificate of achievement from there, or you have shown that you've been working on projects with people, all these things are being considered. But again, the challenge is to make sure that you make those things stand out to us so that we see them on your CV, and you essentially justify saying, because I know I have a bachelor's degree in comparative literature, for example, and that's not one of those that you recommend for this program. But in addition to that, because I found that really interesting, in addition to that, here are all the good reasons why you should still consider my application, because it shows that I have the prerequisites necessary for admission. And it can be university modules, but it can be, MOOCs, it can be accomplishments you've done beyond that, it can be other continuing education activities that you may have been doing. It can be, there's a great number of options that you can pick and choose from. It depends, of course, on where precisely you are and what's available in your area. I think I don't know, Lily, if that's something where you would encourage that the students, the candidates will contact you, or what, how would you?
Yeah, actually, yes, they can send us their questions in the contact form or by email, and we can actually give them more personalized advice depending on their situation, their studies, their profile they may have. We are completely honest as well, and that's best that we have. And as Thomas said, if you don't have the specific scientific background, you may compensate it by maybe studying on parallel modules, but just take into account that you may have scientific questions related to what you have added into your application form. So the certificate is good, but you may have to prove it by answering questions, and that's something important to have in mind. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out. We are actually happy to help you. Very glad to help you if you have any doubt, if you are motivated and passionate on what you are doing and the field and the Internet of Things field, you want to develop a career on that, do not hesitate to actually work hard in a very good application and consequently prepare for an interview if you are invited. Well, looking forward to see you or to hearing for everyone who has joined this webinar, and stay in touch. Tell us. And
Yes,
thank you,
thank
Hadi.
you.
Yes, thank you, Hadi, for being here. Maybe Hadi has also tips for current candidates. So just in a few words, if you'd like to encourage them and just and tell them how maybe enhance their applications and other applicants. That would be helpful.
Again, one important tip is if you're motivated, show it. And definitely if you're thinking about a career path, even if you're not sure, but you'd like to continue in some field and explore some more, definitely show that and mention it.
Thank you.
Once again, as Didi said, feel free to reach us at GD Admissions and to scan the QR code to find any information related to the MSc&T programs, read testimonies, but also chat with our current students through the UniBuddy platform, and also maybe get the monthly MSc&T newsletter to just stay in touch with École Polytechnique and the MSc&T programs. Thank you so much, and maybe see you soon on campus.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you.
good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, and I hope you're not allergic to cats, because this one has been very cuddly already.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.